Many of us have to rely on taxis to get around from time to time, and it can be an expensive business.
But surely the fare should be the same whether you're in a wheelchair or not.
Wheelchair users have long campaigned for an end to discrimination on public transport. It seems
A major change in the Equality Act brought in last month means that if the driver of an accessible taxi refuses to take somebody in a wheelchair or tries to charge them extra, they could be fined up to £1,000.
So, is it making a difference? I've come to Nottingham to see whether the cabbies here are happy to take me around the city, and whether they'll charge me the same as our able-bodied one-show director, Catherine.
Hiya, can we go to Market Square?
Hey there, pal, can I jump in with you? There we go. Thank you.
No problems getting a ride at the taxi rank, as all the city bridges are accessible to wheelchair users. And because they're on a meter, charges should be the same.
So come on then, how much was yours?
£4.60.
£4.60, so was mine. Bang on.
Perfect.
So far, so good. But what about Uber? Well, that's not an option here in Nottingham, as they currently don't have any wheelchair accessible cars, although they say they're working to expand their vehicle options across the UK. So instead, we're going to pre-book a private hire taxi through a local firm.
Good morning, I was hoping I could get a car, please. I'm in a wheelchair. I'm going to need an accessible cab, is that okay?
We haven't got one available straight away. You're looking at about 20 minutes to half an hour.
And how much would that be?
£12.
And for director Catherine,
How much is that?
Probably about £3.50.
And that's going to be here straight away. I've got to wait half hour and pay 4 times for the privilege. Good morning.
the cab finally arrives, and to be fair, the driver can't do enough for me.
Yeah, perfect.
So my taxi ride was full of extras. He had to make sure I was safe. It was 4 times the effort for him, but it was 4 times the price for me, and it's not my fault.
And overcharging isn't just a problem here in Nottingham. We called 40 different private hire firms across the UK, and nearly half quoted a higher fare for a wheelchair user, sometimes 3 times as much. That's despite the changes to the law brought in last month, specifically to prevent this. So why are they not being enforced?
This law only works if the councils involved produce a formal list of wheelchair accessible vehicles. If they don't produce a list, then the law doesn't come into effect in their area at all. A substantial proportion of councils have said that they don't have any intention of creating such a list. It's bonkers, really.
And one of those councils that doesn't have a formal list of wheelchair accessible taxis is, you've guessed it, here in Nottingham.
I wanted to ask the council why they're not doing what they need to make sure this law is enforced, but they couldn't provide anyone to talk to me.
A spokesperson told us that the council takes discrimination seriously. It's developed a strategy to drive up standards, and it is intending to create a list which will help them prosecute drivers in the future. And it seems that list can't come soon enough. Despite our earlier positive experience, as we try to take a Hackney carriage back to the station, we encounter a problem. The driver wants to charge us a £10 fixed fee for taking a wheelchair. When challenged, he reluctantly agrees to put on the meter and struggles to get the ramp out of the back of the vehicle. But on arrival at the station, he almost doubles the meter fare. He claims it's standard policy to charge extra for a wheelchair.
So the wheelchair's extra?
Without wheelchair, we put on the meter. We price on the meter.
Without wheelchair, we put on the meter.
That's right, yes.
But with a wheelchair?
With the wheelchair, £15. That's my company's rules and regulations.
£15. Okay, thank you.
So it was twice the price because you made him take me. Is it a shame that the wheelchair was such an inconvenience for him? It's a joke.
We asked the local Taxi Drivers Association for its thoughts on the incident, but they failed to provide a response.
But there's a lot of people that can't. Until these laws are enforced properly, there's still a long way to go.
Well, Steve is here with us now to talk about this a little bit more. It's shocking What happened to you there at the end, Steve? I mean...
Yeah, the whole situation, being in a wheelchair certainly isn't my fault. It's not the fault of anybody that's in a wheelchair. And then to be charged up to 4 times as much as you saw there is unreal. And that's... You've got to remember, this isn't always the case. It's the same as anything. You get good people, bad people, people who take advantage of situations. Now, I was in a cab the other day where I was on my way to a charity dinner, and they said, you know what, don't worry about the fare, give it to the charity. So this isn't saying that everybody does this, it's just showing the opportunity to do it.
But in your kind of, you know, general everyday, are you always ringing up to get the best price, and do you have to find that you're getting quotes as opposed to just jumping in a cab?
Yeah, I do my best to make sure I put the research in, phone around, make sure that I get the best price that I can. But you know that you're being charged more than other people, and it's just unfair.
But tell us then about this loophole that means that cab companies can get away with charging you more.
So there was a new law brought in last month that said from the government saying, please can local councils put together a list of taxi companies that have got accessible cabs within their fleet.
Right.
Now, there is no law to say that this list has to be enforced. The thing is once you are put on that list, you then have to charge the same for an able-bodied passenger and a wheelchair passenger. So once you're on the list, it's the law to charge the same. But there's no law to be put on this list in the first place.
So the next question would be that is it mandatory, or is it going to be mandatory to be on this list as far as, you know, local councils are concerned? But you've got to reply, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. I've got a reply here. So, well, we asked the local government association about this, and they represent 371 councils. And we asked them to comment on the findings. They told us that they encourage all their members to draw up a list of designated vehicles. Now, encourage means it's not mandatory, of course. They also told us that the councils require drivers to undertake disability awareness training when there's been complaints or when wheelchair users have been refused entry to the taxi.
OK, well, thanks for that, Steve. We're going to keep an eye on this. Are you getting a taxi home?
Hopefully.
Good luck. Let us know how it goes.
Right.